without further ado, Mr. George Stuart.
And now Washington gave the greatest service that he was to give to the cause. And he said, "Gentlemen, we have not fought for 6 dreadful years to establish another tin pot tyranny. There will be no kings in America." Well, as a result of what I've just told you, he was asked to chair the meeting that took place in Philadelphia in the summer of 1787. And this turned out to be the most important meeting in American history, the Constitutional Convention of 1787. During that long and hot and very difficult summer, a document was finally drawn up and agreed upon, which would be the foundation, the true and lasting foundation of the United States of America. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Of course, this was only the beginning, and the story from then on is for another time. What you've just seen is the conclusion of one of my monologues that I give at the Ventura Museum of History and Art. I was using a storyteller's device to encourage the audience to anticipate more. There's an adventure to come. Here I am working in the studio creating one of the historical figures. I'm actually working on a portrait of Captain Cook, the famous explorer and discoverer of Australia. The historical figures were a project I'd worked on some years prior to beginning telling monologues. But it soon became clear that the figures would be the visual aspect of the storytelling. And I would focus on the particular lives, the personal histories of famous people from the past. It took a good many years to develop quite a collection. One of the distinctions between my efforts, which I call the historical figures, and other people who work with the human image is that I particularize in the portraits of specific individuals from the past. I'm not doing general French peasants or military figures or that sort of thing. I want to talk about specific individuals. And that's why each of the portraits is carefully researched as a biography, a visual biography, if you will. As to the construction of the bodies, I begin by making an iron wire skeleton with each of the major joints hinged to move as naturally as possible. This skeleton is covered in a papier-mâché. I use a blue paper for this. And this fleshes out the skeleton, the body of the skeleton. And over that comes the padding or the soft parts of the body, and I use synthetic cotton covered with a thick wool felt. This gives a good, reasonably flexible, strong outer surface. And I can cut and sew and trim into this without it all falling to pieces. Once the soft body over the iron skeleton is completed, and then, of course, the sculptured hands and heads have to be attached. There's always a major construction rod running up from the base into the body, and this will hold the figure erect. Otherwise, it would collapse. Once all of these components are together, I set the position. Now, each figure through studying the personality and trying to create a mood, is given a pose, a specific pose, to tell a story. I think of the portraits of Lincoln that I've done. I think we've done 5 different portraits in the collection of Lincoln alone. And in each one, he is supposed to tell some story of his life. In the earliest one, as a young man in the Illinois woods where he's cutting wood and so on, I show him leaning on his tools and pondering, as he was wont to do, looking thoughtful and somewhat serious. In fact, it's hard to find Lincoln without a serious demeanor. However, the next one does show him in a more humorous light when he was a young attorney in Springfield, wearing white, hot weather. In all of you who have lived in the Illinois area know how hot it can get in the summer. Well, he wore a white linen suit, and he's smiling and feeling good about himself, and you see this sort of wild and healthy young man. And then, of course, as president, when the burden of government is beginning to descend on him, and he's bearded for the first time, standing somberly with his tall hat and holding his umbrella behind him, and the characteristic shawl that he was wont to use from time to time instead of an overcoat, gives the whole picture of that earliest year of his presidency. And then, of course, the final image of him there at Ford's, much depleted physically, prematurely aged, but you can see that there's a certain relief in his face from the horrors of the war that had just preceded, only moments before his own destruction. And I do believe it's a rather poignant image that is captured. So each figure is treated similarly to try to get as much of the expression of their lives and their personalities as possible from the set pose. So a good deal of thought goes in to positioning the figure for this final exposition.